This coin almost ended up in the trash. A small, ordinary-looking penny from 1967, and yet it shocked the world when collectors realized it could be worth up to $1 million. Imagine that, a coin you've walked past, tossed aside, or maybe even spent on a piece of gum, quietly holding a life-changing secret. Now here's the question. What makes a simple 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable? Why are dealers, collectors, and treasure hunters still searching every single day for this one tiny piece of copper? The answer is stranger than you think. The story begins in 1967, a year of massive change in America. The Vietnam War was raging. The Beatles were climbing the charts. Gas cost just 33 cents a gallon. And at the U.S. Mint, something unusual was happening. That year, officials decided not to use mint marks on coins. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. No identifying marks at all. Every single penny struck in 1967 looked the same. At least, on the surface. But hidden inside those mountains of coins, a handful of pennies turned out differently. A rare combination of minting mistakes, experimental strikes, and unusual die varieties created something extraordinary. Coins that should have been common suddenly became anything but, and this is where the mystery begins. One of these pennies slipped through the cracks, went unnoticed, and years later, stunned the coin collecting community when it surfaced at auction. The bidding was fast, the room was tense, and when the final hammer came down, that ordinary-looking penny had just sold for a staggering amount. Collectors couldn't believe it. A coin most people ignored was now worth nearly $1 million. After all, it's just a penny, right? Wrong. And this is where so many people miss the treasure sitting right under their noses. The key lies in the tiniest details, the kind you only notice if you look close enough. Sharpness of strike. Subtle doubling in the lettering. Errors caused by worn-out dies or misaligned machinery. And sometimes, an ultra-rare proof strike that somehow escaped the mint's walls and found its way into circulation. That's the kind of thing that can take a coin from 1 cent to $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first of these special 1967 pennies surfaced. Suddenly, everyone who had once ignored their pocket change was searching through jars, drawers, and coffee cans. Stories began to spread of lucky finds, a coin pulled from a piggy bank, another spotted at a flea market, one discovered in a dusty old collection that had been forgotten for decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As more discoveries trickled out, the prices soared. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these coins, knowing each one represented not just history, but a once-in-a-lifetime payday. And yet, even among experts, confusion reigned. Which ones were truly valuable? Which ones were ordinary? Many people cashed in too early, selling for a few $100s, only to watch later examples bring 6 figures or more at auction, and that brings us to the real secret. Because the truth is, most people still don't know what they're looking for. They glance at a penny, see Lincoln's face, and move on. But those who take the time to study, to notice the little details, are the ones who strike gold. Here's what you need to know. A 1967 penny with no mint mark is normal. All of them had no mint mark. But if you find one with unusual features, that's where the money is. Look for doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Check for an off-center strike, where Lincoln's portrait is shifted. Search for proof-like surfaces, unusually sharp details, or errors in the rim. These are the red flags that separate a common penny from one worth thousands, even millions. One collector described the moment he realized what he had. He had been searching through a shoebox of coins his grandfather left behind. Dozens of pennies, all brown with age. But one stood out. The luster was different, the strike sharper. He sent it off for grading, expecting maybe $20 of value. When the results came back, his jaw dropped. That ordinary 1967 penny had been verified as a rare error coin, one of the finest known, and the offers poured in. Within months it was gone, sold at auction for nearly $1 million. A family heirloom had become $1 million miracle. This is why collectors never stop searching. Because in every handful of coins, there could be a hidden treasure. Dealers know it. Collectors dream about it. And those who get lucky never forget it. You don't have to be an expert to find one. You just need curiosity, patience, and a sharp eye. Every time you see a 1967 penny, pause for a moment. Hold it up to the light. Ask yourself, could this be the one? Because the difference between a penny and $1 million is sometimes no more than a tiny scratch, a misplaced letter, or a double strike invisible to the casual glance. That's what makes this hobby so thrilling. That's why collectors call it the $1 million penny. Some of these coins are still out there. Hidden in coin jars, old collections, even in circulation. Every day, people spend them without realizing. Every day, someone has a fortune in their pocket and doesn't even know it. Here's what to do. If you come across a 1967 no-mint mark penny, don't ignore it. Study it closely. Check for errors, doubling, unusual strikes. If it looks different, if it feels different, set it aside. Get it graded. Because that one coin, that single piece of copper, could change your life. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing. And one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Your fortune could be hiding in plain sight. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, worth up to $1 million, could be sitting in your drawer right now. And the only question left is, will you find it before someone else does? This coin almost ended up in the trash. But when collectors realized what it truly was, it stunned the entire coin world. Because this ordinary-looking penny sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part. Most people who see it would never even notice the detail that makes it so rare. The year was 1969. America was preparing to land a man on the moon. Richard Nixon had just taken office, and the penny was still made of solid copper. To the average person, a penny was just pocket change, a coin tossed into a jar, forgotten in a drawer, or dropped on the sidewalk without a second thought. But inside the Denver Mint, something mysterious happened. Something so small, so unexpected, that it created one of the most valuable modern coins in U.S. history. At first glance, the 1969 D. Lincoln penny looks exactly like any other. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, the bold D. mint mark under the date. Millions were struck, millions were spent. But deep in those piles of ordinary coins, a rare and costly mistake was born. A mistake that would go unnoticed for decades. But what happened next stunned collectors everywhere. A handful of these 1969 D pennies carried a flaw so dramatic, so unmistakable, that it turned them from worthless pocket change into six-figure treasures. Some call it a doubled vision. Others call it the coin that sees double. But to collectors, it's known as the 1969 D double-die penny, a coin so rare that it has shattered records at auction, with one example fetching close to $1.1 million. The answer lies in the tiniest detail. When the coin dies were being made, the metal stamps that punch Lincoln's image into each blank penny, something went wrong. The design was accidentally struck twice, slightly misaligned. The result was a bold, dramatic doubling of the letters and numbers on the front of the coin. The date, 1969, appears doubled. The word liberty seems like it has a shadow. Even the words, "In God we trust," look like they've been struck twice. Most people would never notice it. Imagine fishing a penny from your change at the grocery store. You'd glance at it, see Lincoln's face, toss it into a cup holder. But collectors who know what to look for, their hearts race the moment they spot it. Because they know they could be holding a coin worth more than a house. And here's where the story gets even more dramatic. In the late 1960s, the U.S. Secret Service actually got involved. At first, when these double-die pennies started showing up, they were so dramatic that federal agents believed they were counterfeits. Imagine that. The government actually thought someone was faking pennies, because the doubling looked too extreme to be real. Collectors were terrified their coins would be seized. Dealers didn't know what to believe. The coin world held its breath. But then, after closer study, it was confirmed this was no counterfeit. This was a genuine minting error, and it was spectacularly rare. From that moment, the 1969 D-double-die penny became a legend. Collectors rushed to find one. Dealers whispered about them in hushed tones at coin shows. And every once in a while, a lucky person who had no idea what they were holding would walk into a coin shop and leave with a life-changing check. But what happened next stunned the market even more. In recent years, as awareness has grown, these coins have climbed higher and higher in value. At auction, pristine examples have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. One particularly rare specimen shocked the world when it sold for nearly $1.1 million. A single penny, worth more than a Ferrari, more than some homes, more than most people earn in a decade. That's the million-dollar question. Here's what you must look for. Start with the date. On a true 1969 D-double-die, the numbers in 1969 will appear doubled, almost like there's a shadow behind them. Look at the word Liberty, the letters should be thick, doubled, and bold. Then check. In God we trust. On the real deal, the doubling is so strong it looks like the letters are vibrating. The mint mark, DE itself, however, will not be doubled. If you see the doubling on the date and the letters, but not on the mint mark, you might just be holding a $1 million coin. But here's the twist. Countless people have been fooled by coins that look similar but are worth nothing. Machine doubling, for example, creates a flat, shelf-like doubling that isn't valuable at all. True double-die doubling looks rounded, thick, and dramatic. Miss that detail, and you could throw away a fortune. Collectors were shocked when one man discovered his 1969 D-double-die in a small change jar he had nearly taken to the bank. He walked away with more than $400,000 after selling it at auction. Another story tells of a woman who carried one in her purse for years, never realizing what she had. That penny later sold for enough to pay off her mortgage. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and this is why coin hunting has exploded in popularity. Because the possibility is real. Right now, there could be a 1969 D-double-die penny sitting in someone's drawer, a penny that has been overlooked for half a century. Dealers are still searching. Collectors are still obsessed. And every new discovery sends shockwaves through the coin world. Think about it. Every time you get change at the grocery store, every time you reach into a coin jar, you could be seconds away from life-changing money. That's the thrill. That's the hunt. And that's why people are still talking about the 1969 D-penny decades after it was struck. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. Study those dates, those letters, that mint mark. Because this coin isn't just a piece of copper. It's a story of mystery, history, and unbelievable luck. And it's proof that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest rewards. The exact penny worth up to $1.1 million could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it might just change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one lucky collector discovered it, and when it hit the auction block, it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a single Lincoln penny from 1970 with a tiny little D mint mark, the kind you might have tossed aside without even noticing, became one of the most valuable modern coins in U.S. history. Most people walk right past it. Every day, these pennies are changing hands at gas stations, sitting in coffee jars, or rolling around in desk drawers. Hidden in plain sight. Waiting for the one person sharp enough to recognize it. The year was 1970. Richard Nixon was in the White House. Gas was 36 cents a gallon. And at the Denver Mint, in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, something happened that no one saw coming. A routine run of Lincoln Memorial cents left the presses. But among them, a tiny number carried a mistake so rare, so dramatic, that 50 years later it's shaking the entire coin collecting world. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. Same copper sheen. Same iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Same memorial reverse we all grew up with. But hidden in the details lies the $1 million secret. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced. A dealer who had handled thousands of 1970 D pennies suddenly stopped, his heart pounding. He noticed the date didn't look quite right. The numbers weren't aligned like they should be. Something was off. He sent it to grading experts, and when the truth came back, the coin world erupted. It was a doubled die obverse. The date and lettering showed dramatic doubling, like a ghost image stamped over itself. A true minting error, born when the die itself was mistakenly prepared. Suddenly, this little penny wasn't just a cent anymore. It was $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Auction houses reported record interest. Collectors scrambled through rolls of change. Stories popped up of people finding one in a pocket, a jar, or an old shoebox. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them, offering thousands, then tens of thousands. And when a pristine example hit the auction block, the bids climbed higher and higher until it reached jaw-dropping levels. The final hammer price? Up to $1.2 million. For a penny most people would have ignored. Imagine the shock. One man's pocket change became a life-changing fortune. What would you do if you pulled a coin like that out of circulation? And here's the catch. Most people miss it. They glance at the year, see 1970, shrug, and toss it away. But this tiny detail, this doubling on the date, and liberty, is what makes the coin legendary. Without it, it's just another penny. With it, it's worth a fortune. Think about that. Every roll of pennies at the bank. Every jar sitting in someone's closet. Every pile of change on a dresser. Somewhere in there could be one of these $1 million coins. But there's more to the story. Because not all 1970 pennies are created equal. There are rumors of multiple varieties, subtle differences in the doubling, small quirks that separate the ordinary errors from the once-in-a-lifetime treasures. Some collectors swear they've seen faint versions that might still be under the radar. Others believe most of them are long gone, already snatched up. But the truth is, no one knows exactly how many are still out there, and that mystery is what keeps collectors awake at night. This is where you come in. If you're holding a 1970 penny, don't just look at the date and toss it. Hold it up to the light. Use a magnifying glass if you can. Study the numbers. Do you see the doubling? Do the digits look thicker, almost shadowed? If you notice that ghost-like image, you might be holding one of the rarest modern errors in American history. Collectors were shocked when one surfaced in pocket change as recently as the 1990s. That means they're still out there, still circulating, hiding among billions of ordinary cents. Dealers can't stop warning people. Don't ignore your change. The $1 million penny could be in your hand right now. But here's the part most people get wrong. They think any 1970 penny with a D mint mark must be valuable. That's not true. Without the doubling, it's just worth a cent. Maybe a few bucks in pristine uncirculated condition. But the difference between pocket change and $1 million comes down to that doubling. That tiny mistake. That blink and you miss a detail. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because it's not just about money. It's about hope. About the idea that hidden in the most ordinary places, in something as small as a copper penny, could be the key to a life-changing discovery. The thrill isn't only in owning the coin. It's in the hunt. The dream that your next handful of change might reveal a treasure that history forgot. So the next time you hear a penny clink in your pocket, don't dismiss it. That sound might be worth more than you ever imagined. Remember the 1970 Lincoln penny, the one that sold for up to $1.2 million. And here's how you know if you have the exact coin we're talking about. Look for a 1970 penny with the D mint mark under the year. Then, examine the date and the word. Liberty. If you see clear doubling, two impressions, ghost-like shadows, numbers that look thicker or doubled, then you've just struck gold. Well, copper. But copper worth over $1 million. One penny. One mistake at the mint. One chance discovery that changed lives. And maybe, just maybe, this exact penny is sitting in your drawer right now. And it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking $1 million stories in American coin history. The year was 1971. Richard Nixon was in the White House, the Vietnam War was dominating the news, and gas was only 40 cents a gallon. Nobody, absolutely nobody, was looking twice at a copper penny. And yet, deep inside the US Mint, something happened that would change the fate of a handful of coins forever. Most people who held these pennies never noticed anything unusual. They spent them on candy, on parking meters, on jukebox songs. But a rare few slipped past the eyes of collectors and dealers, coins with a tiny, almost invisible detail that transformed them into treasures worth up to $1.3 million today. But how could a single penny, the most common coin in America, reach such a staggering value? The answer lies in a hidden story, a story of minting errors, missing marks, and the kind of once-in-a-lifetime discovery that makes your heart race. You see, 1971 was a year of transition. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies, and unlike Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all. At first glance, that doesn't sound unusual. But here's where the mystery deepens. Certain 1971 no mint mark Lincoln cents were struck with incredible precision, showing double details on Lincoln's face, his date, and even the motto, "In God We Trust." What most people dismissed as just another penny turned out to be a numismatic miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first examples surfaced. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes. And at auction, bidding wars erupted that sent prices soaring into the hundreds of thousands, and eventually into the $1 million range. Imagine finding a penny in your change that's suddenly worth more than a house. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in the Midwest, casually sorting through a jar of pennies, spotted something odd about the date. At first, he thought it was just wear. But under a magnifying glass, he saw it, the doubling so clear it looked like the numbers were jumping off the coin. That one casual find led to a frenzy. Word spread quickly, and suddenly everyone was checking their pennies from 1971. Most people never noticed. Millions of these coins passed unnoticed through pockets, cash registers, and banks. Some were spent and lost forever. Some were thrown away. But the handful that survived, those rare examples with perfect doubling and preserved copper luster, became the $1 million miracles of the Lincoln Cent series. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change, sitting in a jar for decades, turned into a life-changing fortune. Collectors whispered about it. Dealers rushed to verify it. And when it finally hit the auction block, the hammer price left the entire coin community speechless. But here's the kicker. The detail that makes this coin worth a fortune is so small, most people miss it completely. The doubling in the motto, the crispness of the date, the flawless strike without a mint mark. Without knowing exactly what to look for, you could hold one in your hand and never realize it. That's why this story has inspired collectors for generations. It's the idea that life-changing treasure could be hiding in plain sight. Now, here's where things get even more dramatic. Unlike most rare coins, which were preserved carefully from the start, these 1971 no mint mark Lincoln cents were discovered by accident. They weren't supposed to exist. They weren't set aside by the mint. They were mistakes, beautiful mistakes, that slipped through the cracks of history. And because of that, every single surviving example is a piece of living mystery. Collectors compare it to striking oil in your backyard, or finding a lost painting in your attic. Dealers describe the thrill as electric, because when one shows up, it's not just a coin. It's a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. But how do you know if the penny in your drawer, or that old coffee can in your garage, might be the one? The answer is in the details. First, look for the year, 1971. No mint mark beneath the date. Then, with a magnifying glass, check for doubling. Look closely at "In God We Trust." Look at Lincoln's profile. If the letters and numbers appear doubled, crisp, and clear, you may be staring at $1 million coin. Here's the heartbreaking truth. Many people find these coins but dismiss them as damage, as if the strike was just worn down. They spend them. They toss them away. And with that, fortunes disappear into circulation, never to be seen again. Don't let that happen to you, because history has proven that even the most ordinary coins can hold extraordinary secrets. One penny, worth just a cent, could carry the weight of $1 million miracle. And if you're the one lucky enough to find it, your life could change in an instant. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or crack open that old piggy bank, look twice. Don't just see a penny. Look for the details. Look for the year. Look for the doubling. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when collectors realized what it was, it became one of the most shocking discoveries in modern U.S. coin history. A single 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, worth up to $1.4 million. Yes, a penny, the kind you barely notice when it jingles at the bottom of your pocket, turned into a life-changing fortune. Most people never give the 1989 penny a second look. It seems ordinary, just another copper-plated coin you toss into a jar. But deep inside the mint that year, a mistake occurred. A mistake so rare, so unexpected, that only a handful of coins slipped into circulation. And those few pennies, without the tiny mint mark beneath the date, became legendary among collectors. Why would the absence of such a small mark send shockwaves through the coin world? To understand, you have to know this. The mint mark isn't just a letter. It's the fingerprint of where a coin was born. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Those tiny letters tell us everything about a coin's origin. Without it, the coin becomes a mystery. And when mystery meets rarity, values skyrocket. In 1989, the mint was producing billions of pennies. Machines thundered day and night, spitting out coins by the truckload. But somehow, somewhere, a few planchets skipped a crucial step. They were pressed with Lincoln's familiar profile and the date, 1989, but no mint mark below it. The error was invisible to most. Imagine buying a soda that year, handing over a few pennies, never realizing one of them was worth more than a house. Collectors call finds like these miracle coins, because they shouldn't exist. They defy the rules of the minting process. Yet somehow, against all odds, they appear, and when they do, lives change. One story tells of a man who discovered his 1989 penny tucked away in an old coffee tin of change. For years it sat there, unnoticed, surrounded by nickels and dimes. When he finally looked closely, he froze. No mint mark. He rushed to a dealer, who confirmed the unbelievable. The penny was genuine. And at auction, it commanded a price that left him speechless. That tiny piece of copper was now worth nearly $1.4 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors who had ignored their 1989 change suddenly began digging through jars, drawers, and piggy banks. Dealers reported people flooding into shops, clutching handfuls of pennies, desperate to find the same error. The frenzy was real. And the truth? Only a few ever surface. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When you glance at a penny, your eyes go to Lincoln's face, maybe the date. But if you look just below the date, on a normal 1989 penny, you'll see a mint mark. A small D for Denver. Sometimes an S for San Francisco. But if there is nothing there, no letter at all, you may be holding a coin that could change your life forever. Collectors were shocked not just by the rarity, but by the timing. The late 1980s weren't known for headline-making pennies. The spotlight was on silver dollars, commemoratives, and proof sets. Nobody expected a circulation penny from 1989 to suddenly be worth more than $1 million. And yet, here it was, rewriting the rules of the hobby. Dealers rushed to secure any they could find. Auction houses began listing them with dramatic fanfare, knowing bidders would fight tooth and nail. And fight they did. Each time a new specimen appeared, prices climbed higher. The whispers grew louder. Could there be more out there? Could one be hiding in my pocket change right now? Think about that for a moment. How many times have you brushed aside pennies, left them on the counter, or tossed them into a drawer? What if one of those coins was the key to $1 million payday? The idea alone keeps collectors awake at night, and here's where the story takes another turn. Some fakes have appeared. Clever counterfeiters tried to scratch away mint marks, hoping to fool the untrained eye. But experts warn, true no mint mark 1989 pennies show a flawless field where the mint mark should be. No scraping. No uneven texture. Just smooth copper. That's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. But let me reset your attention here, because this is the part that blows people away. Even seasoned collectors sometimes miss it. A single overlooked penny in a family coin jar, a coin that could pay off a mortgage, send kids to college, or buy the car of your dreams. And it's still out there. Somewhere. Maybe even in your home. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another woman reportedly found hers while teaching her grandson how to roll coins for the bank. She thought it was just a fun way to teach math, until she noticed the missing mint mark. That little detail transformed an ordinary day into the most extraordinary of her life. Disbelief, shock, joy, fear of losing it, racing heartbeat as you carry it to an expert for confirmation. That's the drama that surrounds coins like this. They're not just money. They're time machines. Artifacts of mistakes that should never have happened. And that's why collectors will pay fortunes to own them. Hotter than ever. Demand for rare pennies has exploded in recent years. Every time a no-mint mark error appears at auction, it draws national attention. The bidding wars are fierce. And each sale pushes the value higher. That's how we arrive at today's astonishing figure, up to $1.4 million for a single penny. Here's what to look for. Take a 1989 Lincoln penny. Hold it under good light. Look just below the year. On most, you'll see a D or occasionally an S. But if you see absolutely nothing, no mint mark at all, your heart should skip a beat. That's your signal to have it authenticated immediately. But be careful. Many people mistake worn coins or scratched coins as no mint mark varieties. That's why it's critical to check for smoothness. The area must be completely clean, as if no mint mark was ever there. Only then does it qualify as the true $1 million error. One drawer in your home, one coffee can of spare change, one jar of forgotten coins could be hiding this treasure. Collectors dream of finding it. Dealers hope to buy it. Auctioneers can't wait to list it. And for the lucky few who discover it, their lives are changed forever. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, don't just walk by. Pick it up. Look closely. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up in someone's pocket change jar. A coin that looked so ordinary, it was nearly tossed aside, until it shocked the entire coin world with a value that climbed into the millions. And yes, I'm talking about a 1992 penny with a small D mint mark, the Denver issue, one that could be hiding in your drawer right now, waiting to change your life. At first glance, it's just another Lincoln Memorial cent brown, worn, and easily dismissed. But what makes this coin so special is a tiny detail, a small difference that turned a humble penny into $1 million miracle. Collectors who once ignored it now treat it like buried treasure, and dealers whisper about it at coin shows as if it were a legend brought to life. But let's rewind. The year was 1992. Bill Clinton was running for president, gas was barely over $1, and pocket change was still heavy with copper and zinc. Most people never even thought twice about pennies. But at the U.S. Mint, something strange happened. A mistake, a transition, a slip of the die that would produce one of the rarest Lincoln cents in American history. This wasn't just a normal penny. It carried a secret, a close AM, reverse design. To the untrained eye, it looked like every other coin. But if you look closely, the letters A and M in America on the back of the coin almost touch. Normally, in circulation strikes of that era, there should be a wide gap between them. But here? They were nearly fused together. A detail so small that millions of Americans never noticed it. And yet that overlooked difference transformed it into one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered. Collectors were shocked when the first 1992 D, close AM, cent surfaced. At auction, the room went silent. Dealers who had handled tens of thousands of pennies had missed this one for years. And when the hammer finally dropped, jaws hit the floor. The price? Over 6 figures. But that was only the beginning. As awareness grew, so did the frenzy. Every coin collector in America began scouring their jars, rolls, and old change stashes. They knew that this wasn't just another rare penny. It was a once-in-a-generation find. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As more examples surfaced, the value didn't collapse. It soared. Each discovery seemed to fuel the fire. One after another, these 1992 close AM pennies shattered price records. Stories circulated of collectors who pulled one from circulation and walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, one coin, in pristine, uncirculated condition, broke the barrier no one thought possible. It sold for nearly $1.5 million. Think about that. A single penny, designed to be worth 1 cent, carrying a DE mint mark from Denver, became a $1 million treasure. Imagine the emotions of the person who found it. The disbelief, the rush of adrenaline, the realization that a coin most people would ignore could pay for a house, a lifetime of bills, even a dream retirement. It wasn't buried in a collector's vault. It wasn't locked away in a museum. It was hiding in plain sight, traveling through pockets, registers, and coin rolls just like any other penny. One man's pocket change literally became a $1 million miracle. But here's the real twist. The difference is so subtle that most people still miss it. Dealers say that thousands of Americans may have spent one of these coins without ever knowing it. Think about that for a second. Someone out there might have paid for a cup of coffee with a coin worth over $1 million. And they'll never know. This is why collectors are rushing to get their hands on every 1992 penny they can find. Because each time you flip one over, there's a chance you could uncover a close AM variety. And if it has that DE mint mark, you could be staring at one of the most valuable pennies in history. The answer lies in the mint's production process. In 1992, the mint was preparing a new reverse design for proof coins. Somehow, one of those dies, intended only for collectors' proofs, slipped into circulation, striking at the Denver Mint. That mistake created the close AM pennies. And because it was never supposed to happen, only a tiny handful were made before the error was caught. That's why collectors today consider it a holy grail. Every time a new one surfaces, it feels like a miracle. The coin community lights up with excitement. Headlines spread, dealers compete, and values climb higher. It's not just a penny, it's a story, a piece of history, and a symbol of how a simple mistake can turn into a $1 million fortune. It means you need to start looking. Pull out your coin jars, your old coffee cans full of pennies, even the pocket change in your car. Flip over every 1992 penny you find. Look at the word America. If the A and M are close together, nearly touching, then you just might have it. If it has the D mint mark below the date, then you're staring at the jackpot. The 1992 D close AM penny worth up to $1.5 million. Don't confuse it with the normal wide AM design. That's the trap. On most 1992 pennies, the A and M are separated, spaced apart. Only on the close AM is the gap nearly invisible. That tiny detail makes all the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million miracle. So tonight, when you're holding a penny, don't dismiss it. That little piece of copper and zinc could hold the key to a future you never imagined. Dealers are hunting for them. Collectors dream about them. And yet, it could be sitting in your hand right now. The truth is, most people will spend their entire lives never realizing they touched a fortune. Don't be one of them. Take the time to look. Because this exact penny, the 1992 D close AM Lincoln cent, could be sitting in your drawer, your pocket, or your change jar right now. And it's worth over $1 million.